It is Valentine's Day, Frank. I'm very excited for our date later on tonight, by the way. But you always do your Deadline Matchmaker article on February 14th. And as always,
I'm everyone's heartthrob.
Yes. So I want to go through a couple of these situations that you've brought up, a couple of matchmakers that you've put together. You mentioned earlier in the week the market for Scott Laughton maybe heating up. Where do you have him going?
I have Scott Laughton going to the Washington Capitals in exchange for a 2026 first-round pick. First off, let me preface this by saying the first team that throws a first-round pick at the Philadelphia Flyers is going to get him.
Okay.
I believe they already have a second-round pick on the table from a team. And I think with what Washington is after, Scott Laughton's the perfect fit. They're looking for a third-line center. Lars Eller hasn't done the job. You bump Lars Eller down to your 4C, perfect fit. And Scott Laughton is not a rental. So for a team that is trying to compete for a Stanley Cup, has a 10-point lead on their division, wants to win for Alex Ovechkin, you help solidify your offense. You bring in someone that's defensively responsible and really well-liked. And if you're the Flyers, you might have to hold your nose a little bit to trade Scott Laughton to a division rival. But you take the best deal available, and this would be it. And I would ask for a 2026 first-round pick for a couple reasons. One, the Flyers already have 3 first-round picks in 2025. We know that this is a less deep draft than usual. So you bet on 2 things. One, that the draft class is much better in 2026. And 2, you bet on perhaps the Washington Capitals regressing a little bit. Will some of these guys still have career years again? Maybe you can, if you're Washington, add some protections into this. Maybe this feels like a reach. Maybe the Flyers won't get a first-round pick for Scott Laughton. Maybe he won't move then. But that's the whole point of the matchmaker game, is to get people to think. Yeah. People have been saying Leafs, Jets, different places for Scott Laughton to land. I think Washington is just as good a fit or candidate as anyone else.
Okay, there's a few more here I want to get to. Sometimes you just have a type. It's blondes, it's redheads, it's whatever it is. Do the Dallas Stars have a type in Finnish defensemen?
Maybe.
Uh-huh.
So Rasmus Ristolainen, not to stick with the Flyers, but that was another guy that I had moving to the Dallas Stars. And I did it straight up 1-for-1 in exchange for Leon Bichelle. Now, I know I've seen Stars fans in my mentions today. Yep. They're not happy. They don't want to give up a 20-year-old defenseman.
You have to give to get, though.
But here's the thing. Look at the left side defense for the Dallas Stars moving forward. Miro Heiskanen, you've got Esa Lindell signed to a longer-term deal, and the guy we were just talking about, Thomas Harley. All 3 left-shot defensemen. What's the path for Leon Bichelle? Are you going to take one of those guys and move him to the right? Are you going to move Bichelle to the right side? All possible. I'm just saying, give me the path for Bichelle moving forward, and then I'll understand it a little bit better.
He's a luxury for them right now.
I think so. And if you don't want to dig it further into your draft capital, and if you're the Flyers, you want a ready-made prospect. You want someone closer to the NHL. You're trading out Ristolainen. Bring in another giant in Bichelle at 6'6", left side guy. But in my view, the biggest thing separating the Dallas Stars from competing for a Stanley Cup this year is the right side of their defense. Mm-hmm. It's not good enough. Bringing in Cody Ceci is a nice improvement to that, but that's not it. It can't be it. Yeah. And so you've got LTIR money potentially from Miro Heiskanen. You don't need the Flyers to retain on Ristolainen. He'd be the 5th prominent Finn on that roster. And then beyond that, you then have him for another year. So you're giving up a high-end prospect in your view. You've got others, but you've got someone now in Ristolainen that could be part of your team for 2 playoff runs, which I think it's not a massive improvement, but it's a big enough improvement that CC and Ristolainen together on the right side, I think, takes this team up a notch.
Couple more for you. The belle of the ball, Brock Nelson.
I got Brock Nelson going to the Winnipeg Jets. Everyone's talked and wants to link Brock Nelson to the Minnesota Wild. I get why. He's from Minnesota. He made this Team USA team. Who's the GM? Bill Guerin. Understand it completely. That said, and he's a good fit there, but let's change it up just for the sake of changing it up. It's a matchmaker game. I get to make the decisions here. And so I'm sending him to Winnipeg, and I'm doing it for a first-round pick, a third-round pick, and Rasmus Kupari. And the Islanders get a younger player back who really hasn't found his form in the NHL. They get some nice draft capital. And for the Jets, the issue has not – first off, I think he's the type of ceiling you want for a 2C.
Yeah.
If you can go Scheifele, Nelson, Adam Lowry down the middle, I think you are really well situated if you're Winnipeg. And The cost isn't exorbitant. It's going to be a late pick. We just talked about this draft being not that good.
But maybe you can sign him.
But that's the thing, is it's not been hard for the Jets to trade for players. It's been hard for the Jets to keep players once they trade for them. Little known fact, or maybe not, pull up the map. War Road, Minnesota, where Brock Nelson is from, is closer to Winnipeg than it is to St. Paul, where the Wild play. So maybe you have a fighting chance to keep him as he gets closer to free agency, or maybe that's a deal that you can work out that I think really improves the Winnipeg Jets' chances to win. And not only that, but then would allow you also to focus a little bit on maybe improving that defense.
Fair. Last one for you, Frank. Getting back with your ex on Valentine's Day, rarely a good idea. But in the words of Tobias Funke, maybe it'll work for us, and maybe it'll work for the Devils and Kyle Palmieri.
I like it. I think, look, the Devils need a secondary scoring bump. They could probably use a third-line center. But that said, on the wing, Palmieri's a good fit. He's on track for 24 goals. It's not the 30 that he had last season, but he's from Jersey, the pride of St. Peter's Prep. He's a guy that already spent 6 years with the Devils and would be an obvious, comfortable fit for a guy that has a 16-team no-trade clause. So the Islanders have some decisions to make. We know that they still think that they're in the playoff hunt. I think that's fool's gold. I see Nelson and Palmieri moving on to where to be determined, but I think these fits are as good as any others.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.